Mr. Chair and members, Senate Bill 1165, designated as the Save Women's Sports Act, requires that an interscholastic or intramural athletic team or sport be expressly designated based on biological sex. The bill prohibits an athletic team or sport designated for females, women, or girls from being open to students of the male sex, whereas any student is eligible to participate in an athletic team or sport designated for males, men, or boys, or designated as co-ed or mixed. SB 1165 prohibits adverse action to a school for maintaining a separate athletic team or sport for students of the female sex and outlines allowable cause for relief for students or schools who suffer from a violation of the Save Women's Sports Act. A person who prevails on a claim brought pursuant to the Save Women's Sports Act is entitled to damages. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. The sponsor of the bill is not here, but we do have an expert on this issue who is going to speak on her behalf. I'm going to give him a little bit of her time, so he's going to be given 3 minutes. Matt Sharp, if you could come forward, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Sharp, and I'm Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. Women deserve to compete on a level playing field, and allowing males to compete in women's sports destroys fair competition in women's athletic opportunities. Biological sex is indisputably the single biggest driver of athletic advantage. The science shows that comparably fit and trained males will always have physical advantages over women. Even the world's best female Olympic athletes would lose to literally thousands of boys and men on any given day. And that's the reason we have sports as a separate category. But unfortunately, across the country, we're seeing a growing number of instances where males have taken away championships, records, and countless athletic opportunities from female athletes. For example, in 2019, CeCe Telfer, a male who identifies as a female, dominated the NCAA Division II national championship in the 400-meter hurdles. Telfer actually improved in several track and field events after a year of testosterone suppression. In Connecticut, 2 males captured 15 women's championship titles, set 17 new records, and took over 80 opportunities to advance that rightfully belonged to their female competitors. One of the males competed for 3 seasons in the male category, never qualified for a championship, but then switched over within a matter of weeks to the women's category and began dominating. And that hurt girls like Selena Soule, Chelsea Mitchell, and others that our firm is representing in a challenge to Connecticut's policy. SB 1165 would help prevent stories like these from happening to female athletes in Arizona. It protects opportunities for women and girls by ensuring women are not forced to compete against men playing on women's teams. SB 1165 is consistent with both the U.S. Constitution and federal law, including Title IX. In fact, federal courts have long recognized that it's constitutional to provide separate programs based on sex, including sports teams, locker rooms, and even single-sex schools. As the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals explained in a ruling upholding the Arizona Interscholastic Association's policy that they had several years ago that prohibited males from competing on female teams, males would have an undue advantage competing against women, and the evidence was clear that due to the average physiological differences, males would displace females to a substantial extent if they were allowed to compete for positions on the women's team.
1 minute.
I want to quickly talk about how SB 1165 builds on these successes of Title IX. For example, it gives women opportunities to learn leadership skills, teamwork, and other things that have proven to be invaluable. In fact, there was a study from Inc.com of women business leaders found that over 94% of them competed in sports and described the benefits that it flowed and provided to them to their career advancement. And we just want to preserve the same thing for women and girls here in Arizona. Finally, yesterday the NCAA announced that it was changing its policy. Rather than regulating it, it's sort of punting the ball to other national associations and organizations that govern various sports. This demonstrates why bills like SB 1165 are more necessary than ever to make sure that there's a clear, consistent, and fair rule for female athletes here in Arizona, making sure that women continue to have a fair and level playing field as they use their talents to achieve great opportunity. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Sharp? Yes, Senator Quesada.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sharp, is there any evidence that this is a problem here in Arizona? And can you cite any examples of where, here in Arizona, this has actually happened?
Mr.
Chair?
Sharp.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Yes, in fact, 2 points on that. Number one, the AIA's policy specifically allows this. It allows males to compete in women's sports. And my understanding is several years ago, I think it was maybe 2016, 2017, I forget the exact year, but they announced their first sort of use of this policy to allow males to compete. So this is a problem that's happening here in Arizona, and something that we, as we saw in Connecticut, it only takes one male very quickly to begin dominating the women's category in sports. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to make sure that our daughters and granddaughters have those fair opportunities and don't lose out on those.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sharp, yeah,
Quesada.
you mentioned that this is a policy, but I'm asking, is this a problem? Having a policy isn't a problem. And so I'm asking, are there any actual problems with this? And since the AIA has this policy, give me an example of where this has been an actual problem, not just a policy.
Mr. Sharp.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator, again, I would go back to what we saw in Connecticut and the other states where this has happened, is that within a matter of weeks is all it takes for a male to begin to compete and dominate. And that's what we want to make sure. We don't want this to happen when a girl has already lost a championship, when her record has already been broken, when she's already lost a spot on the team. We don't want to address the problem then. We want to make sure that now our daughters and granddaughters have those opportunities preserved, that they never face the embarrassment or the disappointment of stepping up to the starting line and knowing that they're going to lose in an athletic competition to a male.
And so, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sharp, what I'm hearing
Quesada.
is that this is not a problem, that this has not happened, and that in Connecticut it may have been a problem, but here it just hasn't happened, right?
Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chair, Senator, and again, I want to emphasize we are trying to prevent what happened in these other states from happening here. And I think that's a vital interest, is we never want any girl to have that happen to her.
I think what we're saying here is we think it's a problem here. We're not aware of a specific instance where it has happened yet. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leach.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sharp, do you believe that there are 30, 40-foot walls around the state of Arizona that will keep out this from coming from other states, as was alluded to in the earlier questioning?
Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chair and Senator, not at all. In fact, what we're seeing is this is happening more and more. It's happened in Connecticut. It's happened in Montana in the Big Sky Division. Recently, we've seen stories out of Pennsylvania where Leah Thomas, the swimmer, began dominating. And again, this is happening within a matter of days and weeks. That's why we want to make sure that the law is clear on this, that opportunities are protected, and not wait until a girl has lost those opportunities, until the women's division has been decimated by a male competing.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask a question to which I don't know the answer, which always is risky. In your travels to the various states, how many times, count on one hand or a jar full of marbles, where senators, legislators have said, shoulda, coulda, woulda 2 years ago to eliminate that? Have you run into that anywhere in your travels?
Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Lee, yes, I have, unfortunately. A lot of times that's what we hear is, well, why hasn't this happened here? And then we're coming back in a year when it has happened. And then when we're trying to fix the damage that's already been done. And that's what we want to make sure, is that no girl loses an opportunity, that her records aren't broken, her opportunities are lost. And that includes opportunities for scholarships. We've had several girls testify about the scholarship opportunities that they're concerned about losing if a spot on the team goes to a male and he takes away that scholarship opportunity.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of beat this one to a pulp. My quick comment would be there's never a bad time to implement a good policy. So anyways, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you.
Let's hear from, we have several others. Lisa Fink, are you here? You're not going to testify. Okay, very well. You will not hear a complaint from the committee. Inna C. Warner, are you here? Don't see Inna for the bill. Amber Sinsack. Here. Amber, come on up. And then Christine Pierce, if you can be ready to go after Amber. And Jadis Argiope. If you could just state your name, and you have a minute and a half.
My name is Amber Zenzak. Dear Chairman and members of the committee, originally I had a speech written up, but I think I need to focus on the confidentiality of transgender players in leagues. You are not allowed to ask if there is a transgender player on the league. All their information is kept confidential. A female player who faces this situation has no recourse to even ask if that is what they are competing against, or to receive a birth certificate to verify the actual biological sex of a child. I'm a mother of 3 girls who participate in sports. They learn the importance of improving themselves and a team. Through teamwork and determination, they can have the opportunity to receive scholarships. When COVID shut down the schools, my youngest one didn't want to go back to school. She wanted to continue and just travel the world in a van, didn't even want to go back. When we got her to go back to school and it was allowed to come back into session, she started playing basketball. I invited every senator to see and witness what appears to be a male playing on a female's team that dominated a CAA league game. Only one senator took the opportunity to go and visualize what it looks like when a biological boy plays on a female's team. And the fact that you can't even verify or ask for this information puts a big blockade in the way of every
30 seconds.
biological female. My children, if biological males are allowed to compete as transgender females, my daughters stand no chance against a transgender female to win a scholarship in a female's division. We need this separation in sports. They're divided up by age class, weight class, and gender. I ask you to imagine, would a middle school team versus a varsity team, would you consider that a fair game? Thank you.
Thank you
and
for
I
your
hope you
testimony.
take this into account for all of our daughters.
We appreciate your testimony. Members, any questions? Okay. Thank you. Christine?
Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Christine Pierce. Please keep integrity in women's sports in Arizona. Female athletes competing against female athletes. I am grateful for my athletic career, for the opportunities, experiences, and lessons learned during my time of being a competitive athlete. I loved the competition. Allowing males to compete against females takes away the fairness of competition in female athletics. Why compete when you know you are defeated before you ever start? Girls will stop playing sports. Fair competition disappears, as well as women's sports. Males cannot become females. The male body has the advantage. Allowing males to compete in female athletics is stealing wins, opportunities, and dreams from female athletes. Don't allow this to happen to girls and women in Arizona. Protect women's sports. No biological males.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Sonny?
Yes,
Or
thank you,
Senator?
Mr. Chairman. And Coach Barrett, right? No?
No.
Pierce. This is Christine Pierce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, never mind.
You okay?
Thank you.
What is your background? You said you competed in sports.
I did compete in sports, yes.
What is your current occupation?
I am a nurse.
Okay. Would you say that, okay, you said that there's age appropriate, but, I'm sorry, that was the other speaker. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're off the hook. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your testimony. Appreciate it. Jadis, are you here? If you could, please just state your name for the record. You have a minute and a half.
All right, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I have actually a copy of
Your
what
name, please.
Jada Sarjaibi. My
Okay.
apologies.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Last name is pronounced Sarjaibi.
Sarjaibi,
Sasafji. I have copies of what I wanted to say. If anybody would like it, it
Yeah,
has
if the
some.
pages could grab that and pass that around. So you can go ahead.
It's not collated, so I apologize if you could help me to sort that out. Thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to cut this as short as possible. All right, so my name is Jadis. I am a trans woman, all right? That means I've transitioned, or I'm in the process of transitioning to being a woman.
Okay.
All right. I know what it's like to go through the hardship of being trans, okay? It's not an easy life. You have to overhaul your entire life, upend everything. So believe me when I say this is not an attack on transness at all. This bill has nothing to do with that. All this bill has to do with is biological sex, biological reality, all right? So the reality is we're stronger, we're taller, we have bigger bones, we can take in more oxygen, we have a better fat distribution that gives us an advantage in taking hits, right? We have stronger ligaments. there are very clear, obvious advantages. And if you look at the handouts, you can see some of the statistics on this too. We have anywhere from an advantage of 10 to 50% depending on what sport we're looking at. Now, we could restructure athletics to
30
be...
seconds.
Thank you. We could restructure that so that it would be more egalitarian, but that would make us weaker as a people. The issue is we shouldn't be doing that. Sorry, I'm losing my mind.
All right.
So there's
So you
a
have
there's
15 seconds.
Sorry.
So kind of give us your final thought on this. And we may
Final
have
thought on this
questions
is we
for you.
need to support this bill because it's in fairness towards women. There's a bad trend in taking away women's rights, and allowing males to compete against women is completely unfair. As a trans woman, I fully support this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Okay. Let's hear from Nicole Cassidy, I believe. And then Wendy Mack, if you're here. Nicole, if you could just state your name, minute and a half.
Yes, thank you. My name is Nicole Cassidy, and I'm here with Moms for Liberty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for this opportunity to speak about asking you to support SB 1165 for the following reasons submitted by the Family Watch International. Males are, on average, physically stronger and faster than females. This is the reason for sex-based sports. Without separate categories for males and females, women and girls cannot compete on a level playing field. Early in puberty, testosterone levels in young men typically increases to 10 to 20 times that of a healthy young woman. This increased testosterone enhances athletic performance in a number of ways that give young men an advantage in competition. This advantage does not go away when a male suppresses his testosterone and takes female hormone estrogen. Dr. Timothy Roberts found these men retain a 10% advantage over biological females. A Swedish study looked at biological males who had been given puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and now identified as women, and found that they were still stronger and had more
30
muscle
seconds.
mass following 12 months of treatment than females. Males are on average physically stronger and faster than females. In order to provide girls and women the opportunity to win competitions, compete for scholarships, and safely participate in team sports, sex-based competition is essential. Not only
10 seconds.
If you could just wrap up with your,
Yep,
your
okay.
final thought that you'd like to make sure we hear.
It is imperative that girls and women's sports are preserved for female athletes. We urge you to support Arizona SB 1165. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Okay. Wendy, are you here? I don't see her. And then I have several, if necessary. Oh, we've got some more that have logged in. Okay. Let me see here. This may take a few days for me to get to the bottom here. Russell Toomey, are you here? Don't see him. Kelly Roston, are you here? John Gleason. Jean Castine. Come on up. Ryan Stark, if you're here, get ready. Erica, if you're here, get ready. Okay, go ahead and state your name, minute and a half.
Good morning. My name is Jeannie Castine. I am the Executive Director with Secular Coalition for Arizona. Hello, Mr. Chairman, members. In a past life, you might not be able to tell this now, I was actually an athlete. I'm also a lifelong educator, parent, former school board president. I even coached girls softball, volleyball, and basketball. As a coach, I always trusted the authority and experience of AIA, the Arizona Interscholastic Association. And they have a policy that addresses trans students in sports. It says all students should have the opportunity to participate in Arizona Interscholastic Association activities in a manner that is consistent with their gender identity, irrespective of the sex listed on the student's eligibility for participation in interscholastic athletics or in a gender that does not match the assigned at birth. Once the student has been granted
30
eligibility
seconds.
to participate interscholastic athletics consistent with the athlete's gender identity. Basically, it's saying this is something that's been decided. It doesn't need to be gone over and over again. When I was in middle school, I was the only girl who wanted to play
15
basketball.
seconds.
My parents fought against the school board, and I got to play on the boys' team. And this rule, this law, would have made that impossible.
Can you please give us your final thought on this?
I urge you to vote no on 1165.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick question for you, if you don't mind. Would you be opposed to having just a trans league so that they can all compete in their own league?
I think that the gender identity that the student expresses, that those students should be allowed to be on the team that matches their gender identity. And I think
So
that
you
this,
wouldn't support, I just want to know if you'd support it or not. And-
if there was a movement towards that and it was something that there was a consensus about, absolutely.
Okay.
But at,
Thank you.
at this
That's what
point,
I
we
was-
don't have
that's what I
that.
was curious.
And those kids are being denied.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Stark, are you here? Starzik. Erica Kepler, are you here? Marianne Grafagnino, if you're here, come on up. If you could, state your name, minute and a half, please.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Erica Kepler. I respectfully ask you to vote no on SB 1165. And first I want to say, trans women are not out to destroy women's sports. We are a small, struggling, harmless, but misunderstood minority group dealing with an unusual condition of birth. We have no desire to harm anyone or anything. We just want to live our lives, pursue our happiness, and be full and equal members of society. Now, the issue of this bill is scholastic athletics. Schools exist to educate. As such, school athletics serve a similar purpose as a math problem in a math class. It's a learning exercise. It's how you learn to play the sport. They are not done to find out what student is the fastest or what team is the best. To say a trans girl cannot participate out of some unproven speculation that she may have an advantage misses the point of why the game is being played. School athletics are not about winning. They're about teaching athletic skill along with character, teamwork, leadership, camaraderie, social skills, healthful physical activity, and most important, building better adults and citizens.
30 seconds.
The trans girl deserves equal access to those same educational opportunities as those offered to cisgender girls. This is a matter of equal access to educational opportunity. Please vote no on SB 1165.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I have a question for you. I just read about a girl, biological male who's on a college team, some of the best swimmers in the world, and he beat them by 2 laps. How do you feel about that? Is that okay?
Is that okay? Well, first, I believe that the bill we're discussing is talking about public schools that do not include college athletics. Secondly, I would say that if you are, I would say that there should be rules in place in terms of athletics to say that this person should be on hormone replacement therapy and their testosterone.
I just want to know if you think it's okay or
Do
not.
I think it's okay?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I would say that yes,
Okay.
I do.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. All right. We have Nicole Cassidy. Are you here? Come on up. State your name, please. Minute and a half.
All right. Good morning, Chairman and Chair members. My name is Nicole Cassidy. I'm the Deputy Director at Equality Arizona, an Arizona-based LGBTQ advocacy organization. I'm also a mother of 2 children enrolled in school in Phoenix. I know from experience that school sports are important for students' social development and physical health. Students who play sports learn important lessons about leadership, teamwork, and self-discipline, and building confidence. All students deserve a chance to have that experience. If we want to support girls' sports, we should be providing more funding and more opportunities to play, and also creating stronger laws to protect female athletes from harassment and abuse. Standing in the way of transgender kids participating in sports does none of these things. We can celebrate girls' sports and protect transgender youth from discrimination, making sure that all young people can access the lessons and opportunities that sports afford. Government shouldn't override the ability of local school districts and sports experts to come up
30
with
seconds.
solutions that work. Local schools across the nation already create policies that protect transgender youth and ensure a level playing field for all students. These policies are working. The Arizona Interscholastic Association already has highly effective policies in place for determining fair participation in student athletics for all students. These policies have a proven track record that benefits all students.
Please give us your final thought on
Arizona knows how to ensure fairness in student athletics for all students, and this bill is looking for a problem that doesn't exist in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Yeah,
for
Mr. Chairman, I
Nicole?
have a question.
Yeah, Senator Quesada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You were mentioning the policies that are in place that are working. Can you describe those a little bit more? Because I'm curious about those policies. Are they really working, and
Yeah,
how?
there's
Nicole.
25 states
Through the
across
chair,
the country
please.
who.
Through the chair, please.
Sorry, Chairman. There's 25 policies across the state that are working and ensuring that kids have access. I mean, kids just want to play sports with other kids. We're not talking about competition at the higher level here. We're talking about opportunities for them to build teamwork and to be in community with one another.
And so, Mr. Chairman, would you say
Senator
that
Quesada.
that this bill is addressing a problem that doesn't exist because those policies are actually working?
Absolutely, Chairman, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nicole, if you don't mind, I just want to ask you, how do you feel about having a trans league, or where they have opportunities to compete as trans?
I don't think that we should be further segregating kids who are already alienated and made to feel like they shouldn't exist. I think that they should be able to play with other kids.
So you don't support that?
I do not support that, Chairman.
That's what I wanted to know.
Chairman, follow-up question?
Senator Quesada?
Yes, thank you. How do you feel about policies that create separate but equal for any group of people? Do you think that separate but equal is something that this country has said is not appropriate in this nation?
Yeah, I would say that I mean, this warrants a longer conversation, but I would say that that's not something I would support. in this
Mr.
case.
Chairman, to that point,
Senator Leach?
I think we have men's bathrooms and women's bathrooms. Bringing in segregation into this topic, the separate but equal discussion is gone afar and way off the topic of this bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Leach. I hope that the chairman would take those comments to heart and stop bringing up that issue about creating separate but equal leagues.
No, I do take it to heart. It's there's facts, and we can all decide on this committee what those facts are, but there's a difference between a male and a female biologically. That is a fact. You don't have to believe that if you don't want to, but that's the truth. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from Linda Rizzo. Are you here? Yes. Come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Linda Rizzo, and I'm speaking on behalf of Advocates Protecting Children. Fair Play for Women reports on the clear advantage males have, saying, males have a well-known physical performance advantage over females. Put simply, male bodies are bigger, faster, and stronger on average than female bodies. This is due to biological differences. Male bones are bigger and stronger. Men have longer arms and legs. Men have more blood, bigger hearts, and lungs. To illustrate the differences, consider that the running times of two boys who won first and second place while competing against biological girls. Though they won the state championship in Connecticut, their running times were not good enough for them to have even qualified for the boys' track team. Another example, U.S. sprinter Allison Felix, who is the fastest female sprinter in the world, yet nearly 300 high school boys had recorded times that beat her record. Dr. Roberts found the advantage of having a male body does not go away, even after a male has been on testosterone blockers and estrogen for a year. The enactment of Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 opened up sports to girls and women by requiring that girls and women not be denied the benefits
30
of
seconds.
or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. For the first time, girls and women were provided opportunities to participate in competitive sports against other biological females with the same prizes and scholarship as biological males. The other consideration is boys and men
Please
gaining
give us
access.
your final thought, Ms. Rizzo.
It is
Yeah.
imperative that girls and women's sports are preserved for female competitors and that girls' and women's right to privacy is respected. Please support Arizona SB 1165, allow fair play for women and girls.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for Ms. Rizzo? Thank you for your testimony. Lizette Trujillo, are you here? Yes. Come on up. Vanessa Anspach, come on, if you want to line up behind her. And then Carla Roberts, if you want to be ready to speak. Go ahead. If you could state your name, you have a minute and a half.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Trujillo. I had a speech prepared, but listening to the commentary by many of the committee members here, I can already see where your vote will go. I am the mother of a 14-year-old trans son. I also run a large parent community called Families Transformed by the Southern Arizona Gender Alliance in Tucson, Arizona. We have around 300 families in Pima County who love and support their transgender children. What I want to say is that separate but equal is actually very appropriate. Trans people deserve to have access to public spaces and to be able to participate in everything that their cisgender peers participate in. I love my son very much. I will support him 100% for the rest of his life. Whether he continues to face discrimination, I will be standing by his side every step of the way.
30 seconds.
What I also want to say is that as I sit here, I think about all the small trans young girls who I get to see once a month with their families, and I see the fear in the faces of their parents who are worried about whether they will have access to play soccer in junior high or basketball, who are afraid that they're...
Please give us your final thought on this. You have 15
There
seconds.
doesn't need to be a separate trans league. Trans girls are girls. Saying that they are biologically men is reducing trans people to their body parts, which allows you to dehumanize them. And they are people deserving of respect, and they are people deserving
you.
of their full citizenship.
Thank you for your testimony. Vanessa?
Vanessa Ansbach, chairperson and members of the committee, thank you for your time and consideration. I respectfully request that you vote no on SB 1165. I'm the parent of 2 children, a 10-year-old girl who happens to be transgender. When I became a parent, I never imagined I'd be standing here today defending or begging you for my child's right to be a child. As a parent, my job is to support her, defend her, and be her advocate. That's why I'm here today. This is her life, and I know she's going to face added challenges. Playing sports with her peers shouldn't be one of them. This bill harms her and kids like her. She poses no threat to other girls on her team. She's one of them, just another teammate. Unique in her talents and just out there enjoying the camaraderie and friendship that sports provide. We're a sports family. I played NCAA Division I tennis, and my husband played NCAA Division I basketball. We understand what can be at stake for all athletes, but let's be real. Less than 2% of all high school athletes even go on to play college. This bill is about little kids, harming vulnerable kids. Like I said in the beginning, I never thought I'd be standing here. Try and put yourself in my
15
shoes.
seconds. Could you please give us your final thought on this? Thank you.
No child wakes up wanting to be different from their peers. She wakes up every day and plays soccer with her team, which makes her so happy. Stop looking for a solution to a problem that does not exist.
Thank you for your testimony. No applause in here, please. Thank you. Albert Levinson, are you here, sir? Come on up. Yeah, please state your name. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Albert Levinson, and I'm here in opposition to Senate Bill 1165 because I am the proud father of a transgender daughter in middle school who deserves all the rights and opportunities to play sports just like all other girls growing up in Arizona. Participation in sports is an important part of students' physical, social, and emotional well-being. Playing sports provides student athletes with important lessons about leadership, self-discipline, success and failure, as well as the joy and shared excitement of being part of a team. It's not all about winning and losing.
30 seconds.
Our state already has policies and procedures in place to allow transgender girls to play on girls' sports teams. Senate Bill 1165 is an attempt to address a problem that doesn't exist. It will result in unnecessary litigation because it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Regarding transgender girls playing in sports in Arizona, I say to members of this committee, let them play. Vote no on this discriminatory bill. Don't let Arizona join the list of states that have chosen discrimination over inclusion.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Any questions?
I don't see any questions. Marissa Seitz, are you here? And then Marilyn Rodriguez, if you're here, if you want to be ready.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I just barely made it. Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Marissa Seitz, and I'm an attorney licensed to practice in Arizona since 2009. I've been practicing in juvenile law since 2011, and I have been a practicing attorney in family law since approximately 2016. That said, I have been working in the field of juvenile law on behalf of children since 1999. I'm asking all of you to oppose SB 1165. Based on my experience working with children in juvenile and family law cases and with professionals involved in those cases, it is clear that children thrive not only physically but also mentally when they participate in sports. And transgender children, in particular girls, are no exception to this.
30
Moreover,
seconds.
research supports the participation of transgender children in sports that align with their gender identity. The passage of this bill will prevent transgender children from participating in sports that align with their gender identity. I implore you to please oppose SB 1165, as its passage will only cause harm to the children it targets. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Marilyn Rodriguez. Are you here, Marilyn? Come on up.
Behind the post. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Marilyn Rodriguez from Creosote Partners. I'm here on behalf of the ACLU of Arizona in opposition to SB 1165. The ACLU opposes SB 1165 because it is an unconstitutional attack on women and girls who are transgender that will jeopardize their mental health, physical well-being, and ability to access educational opportunities comparable to their peers. 1165 will also harm cisgender women and girls because it opens the door to further entrenched stereotypes about sex and increases the policing of all women and girls' bodies. We've heard some of that rhetoric today. In addition, because 1165 violates Title IX, and it does violate Title IX, it puts Arizona at risk of losing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal education funding. For those reasons and more, we urge this committee to vote no. If I may continue. Trans people have been participating in Arizona sports consistent with their, thank you, consistent with their gender for years under current AIA and NCAA rules without incident or problem. This has been going on for years. We do not have a problem. The continued inclusion of girls and women who are transgendered in athletics supports the ongoing investment in all girls. That is why leading women athletes like Megan Rapinoe, Candace Parker, and Billie Jean King oppose this type of legislation. We urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, we've got
Austin Davidson.
Austin, are you here? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Austin Davidson. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm respectfully asking the committee to vote no on SB 1165. I live in Tucson. I'm transgender. When I was in high school 20 years ago, I didn't really understand what transgender was, but I knew that I felt so uncomfortable in the girls' locker room that I avoided gym class and never participated in any sports. I struggled throughout high school and had a suicide attempt when I was 14 because I thought there was something wrong with me. If I'd had the language and the understanding to know that I was transgender, as many kids and teenagers do today, I could have started my transition a lot sooner, and I would have wanted to play boys' sports. The physical and mental health benefits of team sports are huge, and letting every student participate in sports helps make our community stronger with healthier youth. I agree with the point that has been made by others that K-12 sports are part of learning more than competition. Suicide rates are tragically high for transgender people of all ages, especially teenagers, and passing a law to discriminate against transgender students and ban them from the physical and mental health benefits of sports could have a devastating effect. This is a life or death issue. Please help keep transgender kids alive, keep Arizona families healthy, and vote no on SB 1165.
Thank you. Any questions? Micah Rosanova, you here?
Good morning. My name is Micah Rosanova, Chairman and members of the committee. I would like to take a moment to speak to you about how the bill, State Bill 1165, undermines young people in our state. The opportunity to participate in sports teams is really important for all kids. I played soccer, volleyball, and basketball from elementary school all the way through high school, and it was a key part of my time. Being on a team helped me make friends, learn how to manage my time, be a part of a team, and make goals for the future, and no kid should be deprived of those opportunities. This bill singles out kids and takes away their chances to be on sports teams, and that's not fair to any of them. It is frustrating to watch these kids wonder if they're going to have to quit their teams or lose their friends. Please vote no on this bill and stop bullying kids.
Thank you for your testimony. I just want to make something clear here, or ask you a question. Why do you think they can't compete on teams? Why do you think they can't play? They can still play.
Yeah, but they're not playing on teams that are consistent with their gender identity.
Okay, but they can still play on a team. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, but they're being deprived of the opportunity to play on a team that's consistent with their identity.
I understand that argument, but I keep hearing people say you can't, and thank you for your testimony. I just want to make a comment. I just keep hearing people say you can't play. They can play. Okay, so they just can't play on the team they want to play on is the difference. So, okay, thank you very much. Let's see, do we have anybody else here? I don't think we have anybody else to speak. Senator Quesada? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering, we haven't heard anybody like officially from like the Arizona Interscholastic Association, and I don't know if anybody's here, but I would like to hear about those rules.
Sure. Is anyone here from there? Barry, you want to come up? And afterwards, I'll need you to sign in for this, okay?
Yes, we had
Thank you.
signed in neutral, Mr. Chairman. I
Okay.
think that should be reflected, and I want to make it clear that AIA is neutral on this bill. We do
Okay.
not support it. We do not oppose it.
Okay.
But
You're a solid
we are rock solid,
neutral.
no
That's
position.
good.
I would also suggest to you that we will adapt our policies to comply with state law, regardless of what that state law is. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman.
Senator.
Mr. Ahrens, I'm wondering what the AIA policy is right now, and if it has created any problems in our high school sports up to this point.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Quesada, you heard earlier somebody read the policy. Let me tell you what the practical application of the policy is. If a student who is transgender requests permission to play in their transgender team, then that goes to the Medical Sports Advisory Council, which consists of a variety of medical and healthcare and psychology professionals. They make a determination. They refer that to the executive board, either to allow the student to play or not to allow the student to play, and then the executive board either ratifies that or overrules that. And that has happened in the last 10 to 12 years. The policy is more recent than that, about a dozen times. And out of those dozen times, I think 7 transgender students were allowed to compete or play or participate in AIA-sanctioned activities of their transgender sex.
And so, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ahrens, and so those 12 incidences and 7 you said were allowed to play. So I understand correctly, a group of medical experts and athletic experts that focus on high school athletics got together to study these issues and make a determination about whether it was appropriate for the fairness of all students involved to allow these students to participate. And so there's a process where those experts got together to evaluate the situation, and it's working.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Quesada, under current law, it is working. Our Medical Advisory Committee is a standing committee. It deals with an awful lot of varied issues that have to do with the health and safety of our student athletes who compete in AIA-sanctioned sports. So under existing law, I would say that policy is working, given the fact that those who have requested it have received adjudicatory relief and have gone on to either participate or not participate.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Contreras?
Mr. Aarons, would you say that, and prior to being coming into the legislature, I was a wrestling coach at a high school for years, and would you say that in high school sports, there's more of a problem of certain sports and certain schools stacking there's certain sports in their school, like a football team, a basketball team, or whatever, where size does matter. It's not a wrestling team where it's 103, 112, 118, 119, whatever. There's an actual in basketball, football, things like that. Size does matter. You're the bigger, taller, whatever. When you get into your basketball team, your football team, your lineman, or whatever. So you have your certain schools around the state that have always taken year after year these state titles. And I know as a wrestling coach that we would have great wrestlers coming up the ranks, and all of a sudden they end up at a different high school because they want to compete for a high school that's going to take a state title. Would you say that there's been more problems within AIA about school stacking versus the problem that we're trying to keep from happening currently with this bill?
Mr. Aarons?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Contreras, if you're referring to transfer rules and other types of circumstances where students believe that they can, how shall I put this, better participate in a school that's got a better program with a better coach and so on, we've had that. We have dealt with that. As a matter of fact, if you saw, according to the Arizona Republic this morning, our board yesterday did the new classifications for football yesterday, where they approved about half of them and they denied about half of them. So yeah, I would say that there's more controversy in AIA over transfer rules and so on to this point than there is in transgender participation activities. We certainly have more appeals for transfer rules than we do for transgender participation, but as far as, Muggsy Bogues, who was a 5'3" starting guard in the National Basketball Association, wasn't hampered by his lack of height, but he was a unique situation. I would grant you that. I don't know if that's responsive to your question, but that's what my take is.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Contreras.
On that, I mean, it's, and I go back to not to so much the wrestling, but to, because again, there is a weight class, there's weight classes and divisions that everyone has to weigh in for that day, for that tournament each day and whatever. But when it comes down to the football and the basketball, I do bring it up because football, you could have a height difference in linemen and receivers and safeties of something from 8 inches to a foot sometimes. And a weight difference of a lineman in of one whole line to the other line over here of a difference of 75 pounds in each person to the people on the opposite side of the line. That to me is more problematic, and it's been happening for, I would say, more than 30 years in interscholastic sports, and yet we're tackling a problem that's really not there. So I just say to all of us here on the committee that if we really want to tackle a problem, let's go after the real problems, things that are really hampering individuals in school, that all of a sudden they don't want to go to high school, where high school sports are there to just give you an extra something to do. You're there to be educated. You want to further your sport, and you as a parent want to do something for your child to further your sport. You put them in extra programs. You take them to extra things to do. There's other things for you to do as a parent. Once you go to college, you get that scholarship, and then from there you go on. But a real coach is going to tell all their kids. The percentage of individuals that actually go and get those scholarships, or actually go and go into the MLB or go into the Olympics or go here, it's far, far between. So I would rather my kids get an education and just have fun with their sport. So we talk about this. And yes, I have 2 daughters and I have a son. And I have been a coach, and I have been playing sports since I was 4 years old. You're out there to first things first is education. Secondly is the sport. If you as a parent want to escalate your kid in that sport, You do it.
Mr.
high school for
Contreras,
sports.
I want to kind of stick to questions now. I appreciate your comments, and your comments we'll have your comments when you explain your vote. That'll be fine. Your point is well taken. Your point is that we have, they're having more of an issue with stacking than transgender students, and we appreciate your comment, but I want to save our comments more for when we explain our vote. Any further questions for Mr. Ahrens? Yes.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Ahrens, I'm just wanting to go back to Senator Quesada's line of questioning, and just to be clear, at this time, these decisions are being made at the very local level, correct?
Mr. Ahrens?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Stahl Hamilton, these decisions are being made by the AIA, which is the sanctioned organization that covers, I think it's 230-odd high schools around the state that are members of the association. So, yes, local level in the context that it is a state association of where the local people are members, and our board and our medical advisory committee are made up of people that come from all over the state and have different positions within the state educational system.
Thank you. One more question,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
one more question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Mr. Ahrens, is the primary focus or concern, does it reside at the high school level, or is it from elementary all the way up? Like, where is the most, I don't know, and maybe you can or cannot answer this, but it seems to me we're talking about all schools, all ages, but
No, Mr. Chairman, Senator Stahl Hamilton, AIA governs high school sports.
just high school.
Yeah, so
So we're not dealing
probably more
here
of
with
opinion.
anything younger than freshmen in high school at a recognized high school that is a member of the Arizona Interscholastic Association.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I just want to do a follow-up on the constitutionality question that came up earlier. So Matt, are you still here? There's a question as to the Title IX claims and the constitutionality. If you could just address that. You kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to hear your position on that, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Title IX, as we all know, prohibits discrimination based on sex and educational opportunities. But when you read the language of Title IX and its regulations, it recognizes that there's places where we do want to allow those separate opportunities, and that specifically sports is one of those. And so Title IX, the regulation, it's 34 CFR 106.41, specifically says schools may maintain, operate, or sponsor teams for members of each sex. So the language of Title IX is clear, is that this is allowed, and that's why we see laws like these and policies like this being upheld. I mentioned earlier, back in 1982, the AIA had a policy specifically saying that men could not compete on female teams. And a male volleyball player didn't like that because his school didn't offer volleyball, and so he challenged it and said, I want to compete on the female team. Sued and went up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, looking at the Constitution and Title IX and all the relevant laws, upheld the policy, saying that it doesn't violate equal protection to create equal opportunities, and to say that it is unfair and is going to take away opportunities to allow men on women's teams.
Okay, I'm just looking to thank you for your. I appreciate your counsel on that. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Quesada, yeah, he's got a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, I'm wondering about I'm looking at the bills that were introduced in Idaho and West Virginia, the ones that those laws were enjoined by courts in Idaho and West Virginia, like very, very similar to the ones that we're discussing here today. What's the situation there with those, and why were those enjoined? And what does that mean for the future of the success of this legislation if it is challenged as well?
Matt, if you have knowledge on that, if you can speak to that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Senator, thank you for that question. So 9 states have passed laws similar to this, and as you brought up, there was legal challenges to Idaho, which was the first state to pass one of these. That one is still working its way through the process. There was an initial ruling at the district court. It was appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit actually sent it back because there's questions of whether the case is still active and alive, because the student challenging it is no longer potentially eligible to compete. With the West Virginia law, that was only enjoined as to the specific student. So even in West Virginia, the law is still in effect for every school, every student. It was only the specific student involved challenging it that it was enjoined to. In many of the other states, the laws are still on the books and still in full force and effect.
And so, Mr. Chairman,
Quesada.
yeah, just to clarify then, in Idaho, that case, from my understanding, it's on appeal because of whether it's moot or not. It has nothing. The appeal has nothing to do with the actual enjoyment of the law. It's just whether the child aged out of the eligibility for participation in sports. So, essentially, that law is still unconstitutional in Idaho, according to that court, right?
Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Senator. Obviously, our position is no, because under Ninth Circuit precedent, which applies to Idaho and Arizona alike, a policy just simply saying males are not eligible to compete on female teams has been upheld by the Ninth Circuit, and that's why on appeal we think the Ninth Circuit would hopefully apply that precedent and overturn the Idaho District Court decision.
So we're hoping.
Well, Mr. Chair?
So the point is we have a ruling from the Ninth Circuit.
A ruling that is very different from the situation that we're talking about here, Mr. Chairman. And that's my point, is that we're talking about two separate legal situations here. And to apply the argument from one to what we're talking about right here is very disingenuous. That's a disingenuous legal argument to make before this committee.
Mr. Sharp, you want to reply to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator. I would say these are the exact same. Both the AIA policy that was upheld by the Ninth Circuit and this policy simply say males are not eligible to compete on female teams. That's all they do. Every student has an opportunity to compete. It simply answers the question, what is the most fair way to do it, specifically as it relates to female sports? So these are an apple-to-apple comparison in terms of the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody had their hand raised in the back. Are you signed in to speak? Yes. Okay, come on up. If you want to state your name, please. You'll have a minute and a half.
Hi, my name's Carla Roberts, chairperson and members of the committee. Thank you for your time and consideration today. I respectfully ask you to vote no on 1165. I came up here from Tucson today. I have a 17-year-old trans kid. I think my child deserves the right, like, we're alive, so we didn't even get to participate in high school sports. I'd like for the kids that come behind my kid to be able to participate in sports. They just want to participate. And I want you to know I'm a Republican, and I do not agree with all this anti-trans legislation. Pinpointing my kid, I just barely got them alive 3 years ago. We just barely got started. And now all these legislations are putting all these kids at risk. You don't understand how hard as parents we're fighting just to keep our kids alive. We just want them to be able to go to the bathroom safely. I would never put my trans daughter on a sport team with males.
30
never.
seconds.
So the things you're asking me to do as a trans parent when I've fought so hard just to get her comfortable with who she is, and then to start taking things away from other kids who deserve the right to participate, and us as parents to know our children are safe.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for listening.
There's none. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hello. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Sports.
Your name, please.
My name is Daniel Trujillo. I oppose SB 11.
You've already testified.
No, he has not testified, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I had a Daniel True. Was there not I called them and they didn't come. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. My name is Daniel Trujillo, and I oppose SB 1165. Sports have always been an important part of my life that I enjoy doing. I love being a part of a team. I'm not always the best player, but I love having the opportunity to play. Playing sports with my friends is fun, and of course, good exercise. And with this bill, it would end up outing a lot of trans kids, putting them in unsafe situations when all they want to do is to be able to play and have fun with their friends. So it's just really frustrating and sad to know that people in my state government are so committed to taking away the things that make me and so many other kids happy and keep us safe. I just want to be a kid and hang out with my friends, and so I'm asking you to just please let me do that and stop SB 1165.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, is there anyone else signed in? Yes, sir. Come on up. Name, please.
My name is Russ Toomey.
I believe you called me earlier. I
did call
was
you earlier.
driving.
Yep, that's all right. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Dr. Russ Toomey. I'm a professor at the University of Arizona in Family Studies and Human Development. I'm here today as a private citizen and not as a representative of the university. I respectfully request that you oppose SB 1165. I've conducted research on the health and well-being of LGBTQ youth for nearly 20 years. My research documents that transgender teens are at substantially higher rates of suicide attempts and ideation compared to their cisgender teens and peers. Research for nearly 3 decades notes that this heightened risk is not because they are transgender, but because of the discrimination that they face related to being transgender. My work identifies that exclusionary policies at the state and local levels, like the one proposed, 1165, contribute to suicidality and poor health outcomes. Specific to sports, when schools or state policies limit participation in sports,
30 seconds.
Trans youth miss out on important learning opportunities and experience poor mental health. Alternatively, and more importantly, when trans youth participate in sports at school, they feel more connected to their school, which is linked to better health and well-being. In fact, decades of research tells us that sports participation and engagement for all youth is related to school connection
10 seconds.
and healthy outcomes. I urge you to oppose 1165 to protect the rights of all students in Arizona. Guidelines at the state and collegiate levels, which were actually just revised last night, exist. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Was there anyone else who had signed in? Okay. All right. With that, Madam Vice Chair, if you could please move the bill.
I move Senate Bill 1165 with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, members. You've heard that motion. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Bartow, Senator Brawley, Senator Contreras.
Mr. Chair, may I explain my vote?
Of course. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, there's I think as I mentioned earlier, I have kids, and I think the hardest thing in life is raising children. As parents, when you have your child, you're the happiest person in the world. First, you meet the person that you're gonna have your children with, your spouse, and then you start having your children. And the last thing that goes through your mind is that my children's gonna turn out a certain way in life. You don't think that. They're your children. You love them. It's all you have is the love that you should hopefully have for your children. I can't damn anyone for what choices as an individual they've made, because that's what they feel in their heart. Every person has a right to their opinion. Every person has a right to their own love. My kids are going to have a right to what they want to do in life one day when they choose and go on in life. As of right now, they're young and they live under my roof and whatever goes on. But they come up to me. I try to have an open relationship with them, and they talk to me. But I just don't know what tomorrow brings. I just hope I have my kids tomorrow. That's what I hope. I hope I'm able to walk my daughters down the aisle tomorrow, one day in the future. I hope I'm able to be a tata one day. That's what I want to fight for. I would rather fight for things like that, to make sure they're safe. There's bigger fish to fry in this world than finding problems that really don't exist. And I think this is really one of those. It just doesn't exist at this point in time. If we want to take care of issues that are happening around the AIA and our high schools, let's fight those. Let's go find them, let's get them, let's go. There's plenty of them already there. We pass laws for what's going on now, and we change existing laws to what's happening currently in our systems to make them up to date. We don't just make a random law for something's not happening out there. And that's what this is. So to all you that have come up today, you know what? You be you, do you. And to you courageous young individuals that came up, you know what? Awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you came up. I'm glad you spoke. And I hope people respect you for who you are. I hope you're out there and you can be a person, and I hope you do big things in life and show all these people that don't care about you being you, or I'm not saying they don't care about you being you, but they want to make laws against what you're doing in life, go out there and do big things and show them what's up. And with that, I vote no.
Senator Leach?
Mr. Chairman, explain my vote.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, by way of explaining my vote, I want to share with you a note that I received, whose name I'm not going to give, but I have the letter right here. And this person, and I'm going to, because it's 2 pages, I'm going to be brief, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
But this person was a swimming official for over 30 years, officiating swim meets at swim clubs, high schools, NCAA, U.S. national championships, international Paralympics, all over the world. The job that this person had was simply the job of saying, on your mark. So you can tell that that person was at the forefront of all classes of swimmers at all ages. This person talks about that everybody can swim and compete, from the littlest under a minnow to the paraplegic. But as people grow, swimmers have always been put into separate groups divided by sex, because from the very beginning, the male anatomy allows males to swim faster than females. That's just the fact. By emphasis added. Males have larger bone structure, denser bones. They have greater lung capacity, larger hearts. We've seen that in the bicycling world. This lady has put up in a sport 30 years. To some degree, I understand what she's going through. I was on a soccer field for 18 years. Let me tell you that when you do a high school soccer game, when you have a collision of either boys or girls, this is not a learning experience. This is to win. This is absolutely to win. It's ingrained in the American way. And we can say we can compete. I would refer you to an ad that Nike ran several years ago. And it talked about the importance of girls in sports and what happens to them when they join a team of like people, in this case, young women. The grades go up, unwanted pregnancies go down, to name a few. So this person, after 30 years, just said enough. After a trans person just took over the game, and because she's seen male bodies just come in and to permeate the sport and dominate the sport. I don't know this person, but I can tell from the tone of her letter that this is just not some wild thing that she concocted up. She gave a good portion of her life teaching young kids, both male and female, in the sport of swimming. Say, well, there's not a problem here? You know, every time that we brought a bill, many of the bills I brought, somebody says, well, there's not a problem in Arizona. I can remember ballot harvesting. People said there's not a problem in Arizona in ballot harvesting. Well, and that was 2015 when I offered that bill, 2016, and we have a problem. We are often accused in this body of being reactionary. Let's be prescriptive. Let's fix this problem now. It is a problem if we allow transgender to take over female sports. You will not have females participating, which all of you have said is important in growth, in education, in teamwork, learning authority. Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Senator Quezada?
Mr. Chairman, explain my vote?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think this has been really sad, what we have seen here today. I'm not surprised that we related this to the ban on ballot harvesting. That's a perfect analogy there, because that's exactly what we're doing here. We're fixing a problem that doesn't exist to further an agenda. That's all we're doing here, furthering an agenda. And our priorities here are really, really messed up. What we're trying to do with all the comments we've heard here today, we're trying to scare people with fake narratives about a targeted group of people. And the reality is that having the opportunity to participate in sports, we've heard this from several speakers, is good for all students, not some students, for all students. Participating in sports is good for all students. It produces better academic performance. It sets higher educational and occupational aspirations. It improves physical health. It improves self-esteem. It improves mental health. That's great stuff. We should be advocating for that for all of our students. So why are we victimizing one targeted group of students by denying them those same opportunities? That's exactly what we're doing. We're denying them those same opportunities. And to say that they have the opportunity to play anyway, that ignores the reality of what's going to actually happen when this is put into practice. So these are really tired and frankly insulting strategies that are used to advance what is simply a discriminatory agenda. Now, while you try to promote this narrative that transgender women are not women, you're simultaneously, and this is the most insulting part to me, you're simultaneously saying that cisgender women are not good enough to compete successfully in sporting activities unless we protect them from certain competition. That's coming from a family where my sisters played athletically, competed at a collegiate level. That's insulting to them. That's insulting to all women. And it's an insulting message to send to women everywhere. Athletic success, and it's clear, who are athletes up here and who's not. I mean, let's make that very clear. But athletic success is based on so many disparate factors, and those factors vary from sport to sport. So what that means is that the skills that make someone an excellent volleyball player doesn't necessarily make them a good softball player, right? And vice versa. Sometimes those skills don't translate. And sometimes having all of the physical skills and having all of the physical advantages, being bigger, being faster, being stronger, those still aren't enough to overcome the mental abilities of other athletes, right? Athletics and athletic competition is not just about the physical attributes. There is so much more to it than that. And to deny that is just showing your ignorance of what athletics is all about. So the point is that in athletics, there's always going to be somebody who's bigger. There's always going to be somebody who's faster. There's always going to be somebody who's stronger than you are. But just being bigger, faster, and stronger doesn't make you a better athlete, and it doesn't guarantee success. So here's the thing. Being transgender does not give girls who are trans an inherent advantage over girls who are not. And any effort to promote that narrative is just wrong, and it is an excuse to advance a discriminatory agenda. And what we have seen here today is disgusting. We should stop it right away, and we should be supporting every student, every child who wants to participate in sports and have the opportunity just to be a child. And so for every child, every young person who spoke here today, I applaud you for everything that you're doing. And I celebrate the fact that you are participating in those sports. And I look forward to seeing you be successful in those sports. And you know what? What I can guarantee you is that although a bunch of people up here don't support you, your classmates do. And that's obvious because we've heard from the AIA, this is not a problem. Nobody's complaining. Your classmates support you, and the future will be better for you, even though the present is clearly not. So I vote no.
Senator Saul Hamilton.
Pass.
Senator Rogers.
Mr. Chairman, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
I was a varsity athlete in high school and college. Title IX came into being when I was a senior in high school. I grew up with two brothers, played outside in the neighborhood all the time, all kinds of sports. And when I found out that I could be on a high school girls softball team, I was probably one of the first ones to sign up. And what a great experience that was. If I had known that men would be on that team, I wouldn't have signed up. Then I went on to compete at the university level in track and field. Again, the first year that university had female sports because of Title IX. Now, as a freshman, I didn't know really that it was Title IX that was the operative law. I just found out because word went around campus at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio, that there was going to be a women's track and field team. I was ecstatic, so I signed up. I was actually coached by someone on the men's team. If men had been on my team, I would not have signed up. And so I'm just telling you personally how much women's sports have meant to me and have been a foundation where I could compete on an egalitarian basis and do the things that my country later enabled me to do, being one of the first women pilots in the Air Force, and so forth. So I am an emphatic aye.
Senator Borelli?
Chairman, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read something here that this is from a high school teacher and a coach. So this is necessary to protect the integrity of women's sports. I agree. We've heard all about the Title IX rules. There's rules in sports. There's rules in the law. There's rules everywhere we look. There's rules. But I also reject the comment that we're victimizing a specific group. I reject that because technically, by not standing up for women's sports, we're actually victimizing the young ladies that are out there trying to compete for scholarships, and that's discriminating. But you know, everybody sees chaos, I see opportunity. I think this is a great opportunity for a trans league. Maybe somebody will step forward and start one for them. So that, Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Senator Stahl Hamilton?
May I explain my vote, Mr. Chair?
Please do.
Thank you. This whole time I have been resisting the urge to ask all the men on this dais to stand up so I can stand up with them. There is not a single man on this dais whose physical appearance I find intimidating. And I would take any one of them on the basketball court on any given day and would have done it as a 14-year-old girl. In fact, I did. But this is not about me. It is not about what my body is capable of or the lack thereof. This is about our children. This is about our families in Arizona, and it's about allowing our children to just be a kid. Thank you, Daniel. I find that this bill is cruel. It places extra burdens on the children and our families until we can walk in the shoes of a trans person and understand how difficult it is for them to be who they are and understand that journey. We have no business excluding them from everyday society. Trans girls are girls. That is the starting point. Trans boys are boys. That is the starting point. It really hurts and sucks to be excluded, and I find this policy alienating and very detrimental to the well-being of our children. And therefore, I am an emphatic no.
Senator Peterson?
Thank you. I'm going to explain my vote. First of all, I'll just say, this is our first committee. I hope we can be respectful to each other. I find it extremely disappointing that we find it necessary to insult another member on this committee to make our argument. I think that just demonstrates how weak your argument is. But I'll just first say that this bill does not discriminate. It treats all biology equally. Kids will be harmed if we don't prevent this, because we see this is happening. There's nothing against a trans league. You're all calling them trans. That's how everybody's identifying here, saying that. Create a trans league. There's nothing against them playing. They can all play. There's already an avenue and a method for them to play. This is constitutional. It's been able to withstand any kind of constitutional muster. This bill protects our daughters and our granddaughters. It's absolute lunacy to think that it's okay to allow a male to dominate in a female sport. And with that, I vote yes.
4 ayes, 3 nays,
No
one not
applause.
voting.
Go ahead.
4 ayes, 3 nays, one not voting.
Members, by your votes of 4 ayes, 3 nays, 1 not voting, you have given Senate Bill 1165 a due pass recommendation.